Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in to 10 Bagger Stocks. This is Mr. 10 Bagger here, testing out my new camera and microphone as I want to get this thing going. And first, I'm just going to take a look at the QQQ, that's the Nasdaq Etf, and we're getting a continued breakout. We're right approaching the all-time highs. We're right there. The bulls want to see that push past it. Ideally, we push past it. We get a little bit of a consolidation right above it, and then we continue to rocket higher. That would probably be the healthiest move that could happen at this point for the bulls and the best scenario. We're looking at some of the top tech names, and they're breaking out. We got Apple filled the gap from a month ago or so, and we still got a ways to go before it gets to all-time highs. We still got around 9% or so before Apple hits the all-time highs. We're going to want to see it consolidate a little bit, a healthy consolidation to cool off the RSI, and then we want to see the push from the bulls. That's the ideal scenario for the bulls. Google continues to rocket higher. We didn't get much of a push today, but we did close at an all-time high closing price. Google has just been on absolute fire and actually has been one of the strongest names in the tech space. I expect it to continue being strong, although ideally bulls want to see some healthy consolidation before we continue to see a further move higher, as we are getting a little bit overbought on the RSI, but there's nothing stopping it from continuing to rocket higher. There's no red flags right now on any of these tech names really, and Facebook would be the same. It was a really tiny red day for Facebook today, pretty much a flat day. We got an inside bar. Well, let's see, did we break that low of yesterday? No, we did not. The low of yesterday was 310.05. The low of today was 310.33, and we continued that higher low pattern every single day. I think it's, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days in a row now on this higher low every day pattern. Okay, so that continues. No red flags on Facebook. It's still holding the 4-period moving average, the red line. We're either going to see a continued push higher come Monday, or we're going to cool off a little bit more consolidation, head down to the green line, which is the 8-day moving average, and that would still be very healthy for the bulls. Either or is an ideal scenario for the bulls. There's no real red flags over here. I expect these stocks to continue going higher. Lockheed Martin, an indecision candlestick over here, so there's a little bit of a red flag, a little bit of a volume spike yesterday. We closed below yesterday's high, which shows a little bit of weakness as we had a breakout and it was kind of a fake out back below the resistance. And I'm seeing some consolidation ahead for Lockheed Martin. This is a critical resistance area it's headed up towards, and we may not break right through. Ideally, bulls, again, want to see some consolidation, healthy consolidation, before breaking this resistance area. Or they bust right through. Either or would be an ideal scenario for the bulls, but clearly this is a well-defined resistance area, and the bears are going to defend it. Some bulls are going to take profits just to protect themselves from any potential decline, and that's what you can do. It's called top fishing. You sell as it gets to the resistance point, just to protect your profits, or you go short there, and if it passes the resistance area and shows strength and no other red flags, you can buy back in at a slightly higher price, and you avoid that potential double top or rejection of resistance and the potential pullback. Or if you're going short, you short near the resistance, and if it passes the resistance, you have your stop loss and you exit your short position with a very small loss. That is a good strategy. SZLS, I mean, it is just brutal. It continues to go lower. We had a little bit of a bear flag, a bear break today, even lower. Really no signs of this turning around right now. We're approaching this critical resistance area right around the 59.60 cents marks. That is the real test of resistance. I don't expect it to break past that just yet. I think we will get a rebound off of this area, but then again, I thought this would rebound days ago. and there is just no sign of strength whatsoever right now. It keeps ending at the low of the day. Not a pretty sight over there. As you can see, I'm watching a lot of U.S. stocks. I changed a lot of money to U.S. I've been playing the Canadian market for quite some time, and I was avoiding changing to the U.S. because the fees are so high. The foreign exchange fees are so high, and you lose so much money, especially when you're converting a lot. You know, if I convert $1 million to U.S., you know, the foreign exchange fees are about 2.5% that I'm paying at TD. So, you know, I convert $1 million, I'm instantly losing $25,000. But at this point, I've decided it's worth it. So I convert a good chunk of money to US dollars. As I see a lot of these US stocks, Apple, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, I think they're going to go a lot higher. And as I said in the other video, a lot of people got burned on these penny stocks and risky stocks. So I think a lot of money's moving to safer companies right now. Coin, we got Coin IPO coming out soon. That's next week. I believe it's April 12th. It could be on Monday. Let's see. I think it's on Monday. I could be wrong. It could either be Monday or Wednesday. We'll talk about it as it gets closer to that date, but keep an eye out for Coin. There's definitely going to be a lot of hype there. And that's the risk with IPOs because there's no previous price history. So, you know, it can open high and sell off, or it can open and then run. And we don't know exactly which way it's going to go. I think a lot of people would anticipate that it's going to open and run, but nothing's for sure. And, you know, we saw a little bit of that with Roblox where it opened and then it ran, but then it pulled back pretty hard too. So, you know, sometimes you can get those quick day trades off of the volatility because a lot of these IPOs, especially this one, they're going to have a lot of volatility. There's a lot of opportunity to make money on the volatility throughout the day, just buying and selling, although it's very risky as there's no previous price history. So do so at your own risk. Shopify, I have the US ticker over here for Shopify. Again, bearish head and shoulders, broke through, was negated. The bulls are pushing forward. We had a big gap up that was never filled. That shows strength. We're moving above the 50-day moving average now. Our next resistance is up here, which is about 1670 or so on the Canadian side. It's around 1300 plus on the US side. We can still see another 7% gain or so before we hit this resistance area and before the bears really might try and have some pushback. But we have this big gap here as well, and the bulls are going to want to fill that gap, and it's highly possible that sooner or later Shopify heads back to all-time highs, which is $1,900 on the Canadian side. Overall looking pretty good, but we do have a lot of range to work with, so I highly doubt it's going to go straight to all-time highs. We're looking for the chart to set a lower high, pull back, set a higher low, and then rocket towards all-time highs and higher. That's what we're looking for. That would be a healthy move. Let's take a look at some of the Canadian stocks here. Weed, a little bit of a rebound today. We had a bit of a volume spike yesterday. Pretty high volume today too. They're doing dilution. They're buying this other company, Fire. Is the market going to be happy with that purchase? That's the question. We filled this gap down here. As you can see, a lot of gaps do tend to get filled sometimes. And we filled this gap right here. And really that's the support area, 150-day moving average. But we could head down still here to the 200-day moving average on weed. Now, weed is going to be directly tied to Fire. So if weed goes up, Fire is going to go up. If weed goes down, Fire should go down. That's how it should work because weed is buying out Fire for a specific number of shares. Every person who has a share in Fire is going to get 0.01165 or so shares of Canopy, which right now equates to about 42 cents or so for Fire. So there's a slight premium. You know, I think if you're bullish on weed, it's probably safer to just stick to buying weed other than Fire. Even though there's that slight premium with Fire, you have to remember the bid and ask on these penny stocks, you're losing money just on the bid and the ask because there's a spread. There's a 1.5% spread or so between the bid and the ask. So there's that. APH, this has been the strongest wheat stock there is. Obviously, it got crushed. We looked back a little while ago, and it was very clear that this was the top. I mean, it gapped up extremely high, sold off hard on big volume, and now a lot of people are just sitting in the red, and this is a clear resistance area now. You could see it came back up, test the bottom of this candle, came back up, test the bottom of this candle. That is a clear resistance area. This candle here, there's a lot of bag holders sitting up there. Chart's not looking too pretty overall. And, you know, another indicator I haven't really been talking about, but I'm going to be talking about more in these coming videos, is the MACD. So a lot of the primary indicators I tend to look at are the volume, the candlesticks, the patterns, the Bollinger Bands, and the moving averages. Those are my favorite indicators that I like to keep an eye on. Nothing too fancy, and the RSI as well. Although I'm not a huge fan of the RSI, I do like to keep an eye on it, but I find, you know, even when stocks get overbought, they tend to get a lot more overbought, and the RSI really isn't the best indicator to follow. It's just something else to keep in mind as well when you're looking at the full picture. But the MACD, very clear signal. Look at the MACD back here. We've had a MACD bullish D cross over here, okay, where the blue line went above the orange line. There was a bullish MACD cross. That was right here. That was when APH was $9. And if you bought on the bullish MACD cross, it went all the way up to $40, $41 almost. And then there was a bearish MACD cross when it was still around 26, and you would have spared yourself some losses if you sold there. Now, this isn't an always indicator, because sometimes there's a lot of false registers, like right here. Mind you, there wasn't showing a lot of strength in this bullish MACD cross right here. But there's a lot of false registers, so you don't want to base any decisions just off of the MACD. But with that being said, it does tend to be quite a good indicator to keep your eye on. I think the same happened with weed. Bullish MACD cross all the way down here, $20, and it ran all the way to 71. Huge. And this is on the daily chart. And then there was a bearish MACD cross, you know, when it was around 55. So you would have spared yourself some losses all the way down to what is now 36. So the bullish MACD cross, or the MACD, is one of the great indicators to keep your eyes on. And the same with Bitcoin. Let's look on the weekly when you're looking for longer term. Bullish MACD cross occurred on Bitcoin back when it was still around $10,000. There's no bearish MACD cross yet, although it is weakening a bit. And if we continue this kind of price action, we could get that bearish MACD cross on the weekly on Bitcoin, which could suggest some downside is coming. So far, no real red flags. We're holding above the red line moving average so far in the weekly, the 4-week moving average. That's the 4 period. So far, no real red flags, but it has cooled off on the RSI quite a bit. The MACD is starting to converge, and if we continue to get this price action, we're going to get the MACD converging bearish, and that could signal some downside is ahead. But as of now, that hasn't happened. But yeah, if you went and bought back with the MACD cross back here, around $10,000 a share, you made a 600% return up till now. So MACD is one of the great indicators to look at. And when you combine everything, and really to get a full picture on the stock, you want to be looking, what's the MACD saying on the daily, on the weekly, on the monthly? What is the volume saying on the daily, on the weekly, on the monthly? What are the patterns saying? Is there a bull flag? Is there a head and shoulders? What is there a cup and handle? Any of these patterns? What are the candlesticks themselves saying? Is there any sort of bearish engulfing or bullish engulfing or hanging man or any of those kind of candlesticks? And what's the RSI saying? How overbought or oversold is the stock? And when you take all of these things together, you really come to the most clear picture of the stock that you can. And then it's easier to make a decision, because then you look, okay, we got a bullish MACD cross. We've got a healthy amount of volume. We've got a bull flag. We've got a golden cross where the 50-day went above the 200-day. We've got bullish engulfing candlestick, maybe 3 white soldiers candlestick pattern. We've got healthy consolidation. We've got an RSI that's showing strength, but it's not too overbought. And then we got all these indicators together to say that stock's a buy, because all of the signs are pointing to this stock being healthy and in an uptrend and whatnot. And as you can see, uptrends can be clearly defined on a chart, whereas Bitcoin is still in an uptrend. We have our high, low, higher low, higher high, higher low. Now the bears are going to want to defend this high over here, and that's the key. If the bears can defend this high, we're going to have that lower high, and then the bears are going to want to go for a lower low below 50,000 and to change the trend. But as of now, Bitcoin is still in an uptrend, still looks healthy. The bulls want to see it break up here towards that $70,000 mark on the weekly, which is the upper weekly Bollinger Band. That would be the target if we do break the highs. That would be the fairly short-term target that I would have. And I like to use the Bollinger Bands and the moving averages as support and resistance areas. I'm always keeping an eye. Where are the Bollinger Bands? Where are the moving averages? And I use those as areas to look for support or resistance on a stock. And in this case, if Bitcoin started to break out and broke these resistances, I would be looking towards the upper weekly Bollinger Band as a short-term sell target if I was making a trade. I think that's all I'm going to leave it at for now. I don't want to make this video too long. I'm going to try to make the video shorter. I want to make quick market updates. So that's going to be my key. But that's all I'm going to do for now. I'm going to try and get more Canadian stocks. But then again, at this point, I'm not seeing too much action on either side, really, because the market tends to slow down in the summer. And if you notice, we're just not getting that kind of crazy volatility right now. Everything seems a little bit slow. So it's a good time for more swing trading and buying and holding instead of this day trading thing, because there's just not as much action going on in the day trading space right now. As I'm sure a lot of people, they just want to take the summer off and spend time outside and take breaks and vacations and whatnot. And that's probably the reason why. So that's all for today. We'll talk soon. Have a nice evening and a nice weekend.